Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The courtroom felt less like a place of justice and more like a refrigerated stage lit by the unblinking eyes of a dozen cameras. Their red lights flickered like tiny, impatient heartbeats, waiting for me to break. I sat straighter, though my palms were damp against the polished wood table. My father, Councilman Jordan Stevenson, looked as composed as ever. Not a single silver hair out of place, not a single emotion cracking through his political mask. My mother sat beside him, hands folded, face expressionless, her silence a familiar echo of my childhood. Judge Felicity Murphy, who hid her friendly ties with my father from everyone, cleared her throat. Even that sounded rehearsed. "Councilman Stevenson, you may speak." My father stood, smoothing invisible wrinkles from his suit. "Thank you, Your Honor." He turned toward the cameras first, then toward me, as if remembering I existed. "It brings me no joy to question my daughter's fitness to manage my father's estate, but I must be honest." He let his voice waver, just enough to look gentle, not enough to actually feel it. "Selena has never displayed the responsibility required for such a significant inheritance." A quiet murmur rippled through the audience. It felt like a draft of cold air seeping into my bones. I forced myself to meet his eyes. "You know that isn't true," I whispered, barely audible. He didn't flinch. "Your Honor, I fear that granting her control would be detrimental, both to her and to the legacy my father built." Judge Murphy nodded sympathetically, almost eagerly. The cameras clicked. My throat tightened. The walls seemed to shrink inward, pressing memories against me. Memories of nights I cried alone, of the love my grandfather gave me that neither of them ever had. But beneath the fear, something else flickered. A quiet, stubborn flame. They expected me to break. They expected me to disappear beneath their shadows. Instead, I lifted my chin. Because this wasn't just a hearing. It was the opening move in a battle they didn't know I was prepared to fight. Green Bay winters were sharp, and inside the Stevenson house, the chill came from more than the snow. My father, Jordan, carried authority, not warmth. Every glance from him measured my worth. Silence often felt like approval. My mother's indifference was quieter, almost surgical, leaving me invisible in a house built for appearances. But Lincoln, my grandfather, broke that pattern. His study smelled of cedar and old books, a haven where mistakes weren't punishable and laughter wasn't borrowed. While my parents were absorbed in campaigns or ignored me, he lingered, teaching lessons that weren't written anywhere. "Selena," he said one evening, holding my small hand, "people will measure you by wealth and influence, but character lasts longer than gold." We spent afternoons sorting letters for his foundation, reading scholarship applications, and learning that kindness was deliberate, not performative. Those moments, small and steady, built a shield I would need later. When his illness became unavoidable, I moved into his cottage, watching him fade with quiet dignity. My parents barely noticed, or if they did, it served their narrative of convenience. Even in those days, he trusted me with the future. Hidden in his study, among documents and personal notes, he quietly prepared to leave me everything. When Lincoln passed that spring, grief had already been living with me. The house felt emptier, colder, but his teachings lingered. Every file, every letter he left was more than paper. It was a roadmap. I understood then. Love had survived in secrecy, and that love would guide the battles to come. The day Lincoln's death went public, my father's mask slipped. Jordan unleashed a media campaign, painting me as greedy, reckless, unfit. Each headline was designed to undermine me, each photograph carefully framed to suggest entitlement over merit. I refused to panic. I hired Jaden Clark, a lawyer whose calm precision could temper my father's theatrics. Together we began a meticulous search, public donation records, event photographs, correspondence, even social media posts. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Judge Felicity Murphy, who would preside over my case, was connected to my father, not just professionally, but also personal sympathies. Jaden tapped a folder. "These aren't coincidences. Fundraisers, campaign contributions, private dinners, they're infrastructure. They've built a web to protect him." I felt neither fear nor anger. Each file, each photograph, became a brick in the wall I would raise against him. My father had spent a lifetime ignoring me, erasing my presence. Now I would respond with patience, precision, and truth. One evening, I sat in my grandfather's study, reviewing the evidence. The air smelled of cedar and aged paper, and I felt Lincoln's quiet strength with me. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was a network, carefully crafted to control the outcome. The world will try to define you, Lincoln's voice echoed in my memory. But kindness and truth endure. I smiled quietly, knowing the smoke of lies could not withstand the fire of carefully documented truth. The courtroom was colder than I remembered, and cameras clicked like the heartbeat of a city holding its breath. My father delivered his performance flawlessly. Measured pauses, rehearsed morality, a daughter too inexperienced to manage wealth. My mother sat silent, her composure polished but distant. I rose, carrying a folder that had become both shield and sword. Each document I presented, donation logs, overlapping event schedules, photographs, exposed the web of collusion. And then I revealed the photograph that changed everything. My father and Judge Felicity Murphy together, a private moment captured that confirmed every suspicion. The room froze, pens stopped moving. Even my mother blinked, her silence suddenly heavy. I said nothing, only let the evidence speak. Jaden's voice was calm. All records are verifiable, chronological, and public. Patterns here show influence and conflict of interest. The courtroom remained quiet. I felt the subtle shift. The judge's composure faltered, her eyes betraying the conflict she could no longer hide. The network my father had relied on, built over years, was cracking under the weight of truth. For the first time, I saw him, my father, as vulnerable. The man who had dismissed me for years, who had attempted to erase my worth, now faced exposure that no performance could conceal. Silence stretched, almost living, until cameras clicked again. The room no longer measured loyalty or power. It measured evidence, precision, and courage. The gavel fell, final and unforgiving. The will was upheld. I was the rightful heir. Judge Felicity Murphy resigned within days, citing health concerns. My father's political allies abandoned him, and the scandal consumed his career. My mother filed for divorce, revealing his affair with the judge. I inherited everything my grandfather had left me: property, investments, the foundation. Yet victory felt heavy, not triumphant. The house, the estate, the foundation, it was mine, but it was also the culmination of battles fought in silence, with patience and with precision. Sitting in Lincoln's study, I ran my hand along the cedar desk, remembering his voice. Kindness must outlive fear. It echoed, reminding me that wealth was secondary to the strength, patience, and love he had instilled in me. Outside, Green Bay moved on as it always did. Headlines faded, conversations shifted, but within me, a quiet satisfaction settled. The battle had ended, but the lessons endured. I had proven that truth, carefully documented and calmly delivered, could withstand any storm. And in that silence, after the ruin of lies, I finally understood. Victory is quiet, justice is deliberate, and love, the love that had nurtured me, always prevails.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.